Are there any JavaScript developers here? Okay, I need to remember your faces because I need to know whom to avoid after this talk. Because I'm going to talk about JavaScript. We are at the Perl conference, aren't we? So, most of you possibly know that last year a new JavaScript standard, or more precisely EcmaScript standard, came out, which is called ES6, and it effectively was a first release after EcmaScript committee decided to move to a yearly release schedule. So they are currently doing yearly releases, just like Perl 5, but they usually do it in summer. And ES6 was the first such release, which got a lot of new features. It is very similar to what we had in Perl 5.10. And after looking at these features, I realized that we have a lot of such things in Perl already. And just decided to create this talk as a comparison of new JavaScript features and existing Perl features. Meanwhile, in 2016, ES7 standard came out as well. So yeah, as I said, some of these changes look very familiar for a Perl developer, especially. Well, quite possibly for developers of other scripting languages as well. And by the way, what we are going to do, we're going to have an overview of these features and see examples of how they work. I'll possibly ask you questions. The main question will be whether we have such feature in Perl. I have a box of candies here. Anyone who gives an answer I like will get a candy. It's pretty tasty. Chocolate and nuts. Is there anyone who doesn't like chocolate? Raise your hand. No? Everyone likes? So, okay. I hope you are motivated to give good answers. And meanwhile, this should not be a right answer. This should be an answer which I like. Okay. I had to switch off syntax highlighting because it doesn't look well on this screen. So let's start. Constants. JavaScript has constants now. Do we have constants in Perl? So how do we declare a constant in Perl? Another? Any other answers? Right. Get a candy. Right, but like the oldest thing is actually use constant. But this is, although this is in core for a long time, but actually it's, as I remember, it's just a workaround. It actually uses subs to imitate constants. And I think more modern way of doing the same thing is using const fast. There was read-only model, but it has issues. So people don't use it anymore. Blockscoped variables is another new feature of JavaScript. Do we have blockscoped variables in Perl? Who said no? Hi, Larry. So, if anyone said no, he or she doesn't use strict mode possibly at all. I don't count this as an answer. No one gets a candy. So yeah, so when we declare a variable inside of a block or subroutine or like a loop inside of a loop or anything, you and declare it with my keyword, it becomes lexical. This is the name of Blockscoped variables for Perl. And it's completely separate variable from what we declared before. Blockscoped functions is another new feature of JavaScript. Does Perl have that? No. Does Perl 5 has that? I actually talking about Perl 5 and sorry, Perl 6 answers that don't count. Sorry? What subs? Do you mean that we can declare a variable and assign a subroutine to it? That's a good answer. That's what I thought initially. Oh, sorry. Get another one. But actually, in recent versions of Perl, we can say my sub something, and it will be a lexical sub. But we should mention that this is experimental feature. Actually, thanks. I didn't know that until I started to investigate that question. So JavaScript also has such thing as arrow functions. You can declare a function by saying there is no pointer, unfortunately. Sorry. Wait a second. So this is actually a subroutine declaration, a function declaration in JavaScript. This is an argument, and this is a body of the function. Do we have something similar in Perl? I don't think so, but I think that blocks is a pretty similar thing. So you can use blocks with built-in functions and use them as subroutine references when you declare functions with prototypes. But the difference is that blocks usually, well, I'm not sure about the prototypes, but in built-in stuff, they use only one variable, it's topic variable. So it's kind of similar, but maybe not the same. But it's close. So also JavaScript can use default function parameters. Well, do you have anything similar? Oh? Can you tell it a bit more clear? Bad answer, but take a candy. Sorry, I need... Okay, you are wrong, but your answer lets me to shine. And we actually have parameters because we have experimental signature feature. And actually we have default parameters. So yeah. Oh, sorry. But anyway. Remaining parameters. This is something JavaScript, these three dots is what JavaScript calls a spread operator. Because you know JavaScript arrays are objects, and if you would pass array here, it will be a single object. So it would not split to different arguments. In Perl, things are quite much more simple and much easier to use. And you can just pass any number of variables and collect them in args variable. So in JavaScript, you have to use spread operator for that. It also has some other applications like splitting a string to characters. But, well, we don't need that, we have split function. Yeah, I tried to illustrate this. But actually spread operator is a special thing, as I also already noticed. It it allows you to spread array to a set of variables, to a set of values, which it contains actually. In Perl, we just can put array in a list, and it will be interpolated to a list. Oh, a neat JavaScript feature: multiline strings and template literals. So they can have, they can interpolate string variables inside of string. They can interpolate even expressions inside of a string. And as you see by this example, we have, as a result, there is an actual value instead of the expression. So do we have multiline strings? Really, how they are called? Okay, who said that? Take it. What about interpolation? Interpolation is just, yeah, it's a usual thing for Perl programmer. What about interpolation of expressions? No. How this is called? Right. Who said that? Okay, you already have a candy, I remember. Baby card operator. There are other names for that, but generally it's called baby card operator because it looks like a baby card, I think. So, yeah, if you look at Perl secret month page, it's a model on span. There is a lot of secret Perl operators that you can use that are primarily useful for Perl Golf. Okay, let's go. Binary and octal literals. So, do we have binary literals in Perl? Yeah. Do we have octal literals in Perl? What is octal literal? What? Sorry? 07? Yeah, I think, no, it's not 07, it's just 0. Yeah. So there is no like a character for octal numbers, but this is there is so possibility to declare octal and binary, well, octal numbers, but for binary there is a character. 0 what? Okay. Okay, so also JavaScript, JavaScript 2015, right? ES6 basically provides better Unicode support. It supports Unicode in regexes and playing with Unicode strings. Unfortunately, I cannot show example. My browser doesn't support Unicode well. Again, please. I'm not that proficient in Unicode, to be honest. So maybe that's why I couldn't make my browser display it. Okay, and JavaScript now has a new feature called, by such like long words, regular expression sticky matching. So can we do, so basically when you match the same string several times, and when the regular expression has Y flag, each consequent match returns next result. So it matches A1, then B2, then C3, then you match against character and the number. So is there anything similar in Perl? Yeah, there is a lot of like a set of flags, which is J and JC. So J matches at the last position a last match position, and JC means to tells to remember last matched position, and when you do it in scalar context, it returns the same results. Leon, let me give you a candy because you are telling something. I don't hear you completely and don't understand you, but you are trying, I see. Okay, there's another feature called Destructuring Assignment. The whole word destructuring sounds scary for me because basically what it does, it allows you to assign arrays to a set of variables, for example, or assign variables to sets of variables to another sets of variables, and assign like one array to another. Doesn't work here. Okay, so you can swap variable values and like pick up values of array. This is very obvious in Perl. This is something we had for ages, so good. It's good that JavaScript, after all, has that. It's more like a scripting language now. And another thing with destructuring assignments is what they call object matching and shorthand notation. There's also another notation for that. I don't remember how it's called, and I don't have examples for another one. But the thing is, I think that these the notations and this stuff is more related to JavaScript object model. So we possibly can have something similar in Perl, but we don't quite need it. So here you basically can take an object, JavaScript object, and assign it to a set of variables, and these variables will get the corresponding values of objects fields. I don't think, well, does anyone know whether we have something similar? In Perl 5. The only thing that came to my mind is to use yeah, the referencing, but this won't work in strict mode. I believe there is something like that in on span, but I couldn't find the model for that. Yeah, this is like naughty. Not something we do usually. But if it will be on cpan, I think that it can be used as a black box. So not that bad. Okay, JavaScript also has a couple of new data structures. This is a set data structure, one of them, and it allows you to create sets of things. We surely can't do that in Perl internally, but there is a lot of span models to work with sets and put stuff to them. The same thing with map, but map in JavaScript is a bit different from object, or like we would call it a hash, because it can use objects as keys in this case. So when you use s, which is an object, as a key, you and try to output it to a screen, you get object serialized as a key. In Perl, I don't know whether we have something similar. Right. So I think my recommendation would be to use a refadder function from list to scalar till. So this is a bit more hustle actually, right? But pretty sure, yeah, I agree. Okay, another interesting thing is that such structures can be weak linked. So you can create a weak set and a weak map. Basically, when you remove a reference to variable from somewhere, so you can put object to a set and to a weak set. And when you remove another reference, it gets destroyed because it's weak. So what is Perl's analog? Right, it's weaken. Who said that first? It's also a bit different, so because we don't have weak data structures, weak linking data structures, but I don't know what's better. I think that Perl's approach is more direct and more clear and more universal in some kind of sort. So there is a lot of new built-in methods. So basically, you can assign object properties. This is, you know, I think this is just another buzzword. I don't like how it sounds, but can we do something similar in Perl? How? Right. Just a simple like dereferencing, and it's something we do usually when we need the default values for a function that accepts hash as an argument. It's something very usual, so we don't possibly have even a name for that. JavaScript can find elements of array. We do that usually with first, or those who don't know about list till first, they usually use grep, but grep is worse a little bit. Why? So yeah, it enumerates all elements of the list, and first just finds the first element and returns. So it can be more efficient in terms of performance. One really neat feature of JavaScript. You can now repeat strings as many times as you want. Like another feature is that you can search for substrings. Well, there are several functions for that, like starts with, ends with, and includes. So includes is basically an analog of substr. And I don't think that there is an analog for starts with and ends with. But we can do something similar with substr and regexes. Okay. There is some more advanced stuff that ES6 standard gave us. So one of such things is iterators. So they have an iterator protocol, and you can create generator functions. Generator is something very similar to generators in Python, I think. An example of creating a Fibonacci sequence is like creating a generator and yielding every consequent value from it. The main advantage of this approach is that this is like a lazy evaluation, and you just get in every consequent number when you need it. There is no something similar in Perl core, but there is a lot of span models for generating sequences of numbers or of anything. So one I found the most simple, well, is FastListGen. So it creates a generator for Fibonacci sequences, and well, does that quite well. Also, generators are effectively coroutines. Coroutine is a generalization of a subroutine in the sense that it can return its value and then get back to that place where it returned the value and continue its execution. So when we yield something, the coroutine effectively returns a value of counter. But in JavaScript it is implemented in slightly strange way. Basically, generator just returns an iterator, and you have to manually call iterator next to get a value and check whether it's done or not. Is there an analog of coroutines in Perl? Are there coroutines in Perl? Anyone? Right. The only analog I found is quorum model, and it's like, I don't know whether there are other coroutines implementations, but I know that there are people who use it very efficiently. So the whole program is a bit different because Coro has a seed function to get out of the current coroutine, and it doesn't return a value. So you can use like global variables, or I possibly had to put counter here because so it's just probably my example here. Okay, but it worked. Not like this. Okay, so yeah, if we compare JavaScript coroutines and Perl ones, so we can come up with a table like this. So JavaScript allows you to pass a value to yield, and yield returns the value when it gets back to a coroutine itself. In Perl you can't do that. In JavaScript it's built into a core, and unfortunately in Perl we don't have coroutines. And talking about control flow, in JavaScript you need to remember that generator returns an iterator and you have to manually call next. And in Coro you have to learn how it works, but after that everything is pretty straightforward. Another new feature of JavaScript is promises. Coroutines and promises are both very useful to avoid what is called callback hell. Anyway, do we have promises in Perl? No, not in Perl 6. Yeah, there is a wonderful model from Stephen Little called Promises. And it plays well with different event loops. I used an event, AE event loop in this example, and it does effectively the same thing as the previous example in JavaScript. So, is JavaScript Perl? What do you think? Agreed. It's not, but it became better during like several couple of releases. Any questions? Any notes? Any criticism? I hope there are no rotten tomatoes here. This? Do you have any? Okay, there are some candies here. You can take them. Thanks for attention.